Don't forget, as always, that we love you. And Dane,
thank you for listening.
How's your day going?
Great. Another great Sunday. Spring's finally hit us and I'm ready for it. The softball season's here and man, there's so much going on. It's a great time of year.
I think we've went all the way past spring and hit summer, man. We got to actually help kind of call and be a part of a local baseball tournament today, local radio and stuff.
Nice.
And I tell you what, man, I was sitting there getting a little sunburn, watching baseball. I never realized the difference between baseball and softball until you're actually calling it here locally, So things been good.
Absolutely.
Sid's been good. You guys been okay?
Yeah. She just got done with the tournament. She wrapped up her spring season and they did really well. So it's going along pretty well.
That's awesome, man. Well, I tell you what's going along really well too is, man, these next couple months of interviews, we've been kind of inspired. We're always kind of taking and adding new things, different facets.
Yeah.
And we've been fascinated lately with this pro boxer kind of aesthetic, and female boxers. We love that. We love the story, the whole drive behind it. And we got someone who's coming on in a second named Carson Crawford. Makes her pro debut next week, Dan. I'm so excited because we get to do that pro debut fight. Definitely been fighting for a long time, making her pro debut. You guys probably remember Stephanie Simon speaks highly of her. Just in that great world, there's role models, athletes, mentors. She's kind of the whole package, man. So I don't want to waste any more time because I'm really giddy to get to this. I want to bring on Carson Crawford. How you doing, my friend?
Hi, guys. I'm doing good. How are you?
Excellent. Hey, thanks for giving us some of your time this evening.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for giving me some time on the show. I'm excited to be here.
It's such an honor, Carson. Like I said, what you stand for, what you represent. That you don't have you don't think you know how to quit if you had to. You've got that dog in you, that inspiration. And so I jumping into the question set. I watched your body of work and been kind of hoping to get you on for a while, just kind of watching what you do. By the way, you're quick. Dane, if you haven't watched her videos lately, she is fast. I'll tell you what, like I get out of breath just watching her. But
oh my
back
gosh.
to when all this began, like back to the day, right? When you first started training, maybe like the love for it in your amateur days. When did this love for boxing and as we know, begin for you,
So boxing was something that I kind of stumbled into accidentally. I studied computer animation in college. And I live in LA now. So I came to LA to pursue that career. And I did that for about the first 5 years that I was here in LA. I worked in feature film and commercial TV. Like I worked on a lot of different stuff. And during that time, it was like my job was very stressful. And so I started going to a fitness boxing gym just for like stress relief. And that is like, I had no intentions of like pursuing anything of like an athletic career or anything. Like I was a computer nerd essentially. And that was what introduced me to boxing. And I fell in love with it very quickly, but it was a whole process of like transitioning out of what was probably like a more practical job into now boxing is my full time. So yeah.
I'm thinking about this aesthetic too. I mean, and that gives those people hope. Like you're talking about going from kind of a desk job to something fully physical and demanding.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard that take before, Dane. Have you? That's a crazy transition,
Yeah, I don't think I would be the kind of person that would just go from sitting there to getting punched in the face willingly. But the transition, you never know where life leads. Now, Carson, whenever you started this journey, what was maybe the first thing you noticed whenever you went to your first amateur fight or you went to your first fight in general?
When my first fight it felt like everything kind of happened one step at a time, as far as like transitioning into this as like a full kind of career. And my first fight was very like, I had met my first boxing coach, my first amateur coach at this fitness boxing gym. He was a retired fighter, had over like 200 amateur fights. His wife was a retired professional fighter. And he kind of introduced me to the sport and helped me kind of understand it from that perspective. And what he introduced me to was that boxing was more accessible than I ever thought it was. So I like all I knew of boxing before that, and I was, almost 27 years old when I had my first fight. And all I knew of boxing before I started this, like, was Rocky, and Million Dollar Baby. Like that was it. I knew Manny Pacquiao was like the only name I knew of like real professional fighters. But my coach kind of like he kind of introduced to me that like, it's a little more accessible than you think. Like in Southern California, there are local boxing gyms hosting amateur shows like
Mhm.
every weekend of the year. So anyone can sign up. Like you just have to get
That's
registered with
cool.
USA Boxing. And of course, like you should be prepared, and he helped me with all of that. But it was kind of like, it kind of made it like, it made the sport more accessible in a way that, like, for me, soccer had been accessible like that, and
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
lacrosse, like those are the sports I was exposed to growing up. And it was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is something that someone could just try. And so my
Mhm.
first fight really started as like, it was like, I just want to try it. Like, I just want to, this is a new way to test myself. It feels completely out of my comfort zone. It's, it's trying and like testing a lot of my like kind of insecurities about myself, and
Mhm.
making me face some fears. And that was all it started as. And then that first fight was just, I mean, I think I looked super green and like I won, but it wasn't like
That's awesome.
I didn't demonstrate like any particularly like good skill. But what I demonstrated to my coach and what he said to me after is like, you have heart.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the greenness we can overcome, but you have the one thing that I can't
Yeah.
teach, is that like you have heart and passion and drive, and like you want to be here. And so that just like kind of like flipped the switch for
Wow.
me, and it was like,
That's awesome.
I have to do more of these. I have to get to where someone's like, oh, you have skill also.
That's crazy.
you
Yeah.
know
And with that first fight, or was it that first fight that kind of hooked you into the sport, or did it take you a couple more of you getting a little bit more, using a little bit more of your skill to make you say, okay, I'm going to pursue this path?
it was a little bit like this. Like that first one did for my first four fights. It kind of hooked me in, and I went hard for like a year. I weighed in for way more than four fights that year, but local amateur shows, it's very hard to get opponents, as
Mhm.
especially as a female fighter. And so I weighed in for a lot of shows that either my opponent bailed at the last second, or I just couldn't find an opponent. But I spent a whole year of like really trying to get as many fights as I could locally, and I got four. And then that coach actually moved out of state, and
Mhm.
at that point, working in visual effects, where I was working like most of the time 12 to 14-hour days, and then also
Wow.
trying to train for fights, I was so burned out. When my coach moved, I was like, I think this is a sign that I this is where this comes to an end. And I really thought I was done. um so that I had that first wave, and then I connected with my second amateur coach, and he was my coach through my whole amateur career. I connected with him like a year later, when I ended up quitting my job in visual effects, and realizing that I was partially burned out from that, not just from boxing. So I met him, and then that's when I realized it wasn't the box. Like I quit the wrong thing. Um, it wasn't boxing that was burning me out. It was like being distracted with other
Yeah.
things.
It was the things in the way, right? Of your,
Yeah.
Yeah,
your passion.
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
And
So
wow. I'm making, I always make notes, and I'm hearing this like, and everyone's got kind of their own way of going into it. And you had this stable kind of safety net, doing your job, even though it was stressful. You're good at it, had this thing, and it's like, man, it's not quite what I want. You're taking this leap of faith, and
Yeah.
now going pro, it's the journey. It's cool that you're actually, I love it that you're not giving us all the rainbows and unicorns. You're talking about the life. It was hard
Yeah.
for a little bit. You made it through it. You're showing, hey, you have to have that drive and the skill set and the heart to keep going. It wasn't
Yeah.
just overnight, fight after fight, inch by inch. I love that kind of progressive mindset of what you showed. Now, as you're
Yeah.
going pro, you think about how big the sport has become. We look at like the Serranos
yeah,
and the Caspos and Mayers, and now, which is cool in
yeah.
that same breath, we get to mention the Crawfords and that pro breath. The Simons, but that's what it is, though. You're building yourself
Yeah.
up, and that influence. You now get to be a part of that story. I
Yeah.
mean, the movie itself sounds just great, like this programmer turned power puncher. It's gonna be a cool movie. But I'm
Thank
curious,
you
like,
so much.
you know what I mean? But you got this cool story, but the influences. I know you talked about amateur coaches and all that, but who sparked it? Like, hey, who made you finally decide? Obviously, besides you, who was that biggest influence in your ear to tell you to go for it, to go pro?
Hmm.
Long way
I
of saying
mean,
it.
for sure. Well, to go pro has been like a whole journey. For sure, with the start of boxing, it was my first amateur coach, and he was the one who planted this seed of like, one, the sport is more accessible than you think it is, and two, like with as hard as you work, like
Hmm.
you you work harder than any fighter. That's what he told me. He was just like, you're just doing this recreationally and you work harder than any professional fighter I've ever met. And so he like planted this seed that gave me, like, I had no confidence in it, but that gave me just that base level, like just enough little like seed of confidence that like, oh, you can overcome, like you started this later in life. That's okay. Like you're working so hard. Like you have these factors, this heart and this work ethic that can take you through it. And then it's been a whole journey getting to the pros. That has been like, it was a thing I considered for a long time and wanted to do. The more I got into the amateurs and I was doing these national elite level tournaments and doing well at these tournaments and placing and winning, and it was like, I want to do this, but I kept feeling in my heart that I wasn't quite there yet. I wasn't quite like mentally ready for that transition. And it really wasn't until I went to the Stephanie and I, you mentioned her, we went to the Olympic trials at the same weight class.
Okay.
And it didn't face each other. We have fought each other in the amateurs and that's how we met, but didn't face each other, but we were in the same weight class. And it was the Olympic trials. After I fought all my fights in the Olympic trials, I was able to beat girls that no one thought I was going to beat and hold my own against girls that no one, I was the only, I think in our weight, like I was the only fighter that year who hadn't done any other national tournaments that got me a rank. And so I wasn't ranked, and everyone like just, I felt like I was being looked at as like, oh, you're going to be the one who's out in the first round, and I drew the number 3 seed for my first fight. Oh, wow. And I remember that night, like someone published an article, one of the reporters who was just at the trials published an article about how like I was the upset of the night because I beat this girl in a split decision and no one expected me to beat her. And it was like that moment where I was just like, okay, yeah, I feel ready. Like in my heart, I feel like the belief, the confidence, the things that I need to feel about myself are finally there. So it was kind of experiences, but it was coaches who believed in me, my amateur coach. I'm with a new set of coaches now for the pros who knew me my whole amateur career. And my first day in the gym, both of them came up to me separately. They work together. It's a head coach and his assistant. And they both came up to me separately and said, like, we believe you're going to be a world champion, and to just, so it's just all these little things, but you have to know it for yourself. But it's been a series of coaches. I mean, she's been a huge, like inspiration and person that I like have gone to at tournaments and stressed, and she's had words of wisdom of how to keep going. I mean, so there's a lot of people. That's a rambling answer. Wow. Sorry.
No, I love it. I'm eating this up, and I'm like, I just keep going back to this. I keep seeing this for all of you out there. Like, you may love what you do. Maybe you're looking for a career change, but I keep going back to this. You're doing your thing. You're doing your grind. It's like, okay, this isn't my life. This isn't what I want to do. I want to launch out. And you took it step by step. You didn't know if you were going to be able to pull it off, but you didn't give up. Even though it was like, I don't know if I can get through this. Am I good enough? You're telling yourself, you're fighting with yourself. People around you are seeing it. You kept being the hardest worker in the room. It was day after day. I'm sure many lonely nights you training by yourself. It was never an overnight thing, it sounds like. And then now we're seeing the past couple of years the benefits of what you put in for this body of work. The hard work just paid off little by little, right, Dane? I'm amazed over here.
Yeah. The thing I always want to ask a lot of boxers and actually athletes in your situation, they're just getting ready to turn into that pro athlete. What are some of the differences from the amateur ranks to maybe going into your first fight here as far as studying of the sport? What have you noticed that's different?
Boxing, it's interesting. I think amateurs to pros doesn't always indicate like skill level as much as it indicates the style and like rules of the sport. And so they're kind of there's obviously they're the same sport, but in some ways they're two different sports. In the amateurs, and I always compare it to like running, like the amateurs are kind of like a sprint and the pros are more like a marathon. So it's running, it's all running, but they require like two very different runners to compete in those same two categories. And so I think that transition is sort of similar. in the amateurs, when you're at the elite level, you're doing 3 3-minute rounds. And that's it. You have 9 minutes to prove that you are the better fighter. And so it turns into much more of a sprint. And the judges look way more at volume of punches, how many times can you tag the other person versus how many times they hit you. When you go into the pros, now you're going longer and longer rounds. I'll start with 4 rounds. So it's about the same amount of work time at this point. But, as you work through your career, then you're going to 6 rounds and then 8 rounds and then 10. And for women, it's mostly up to 10 rounds now. Men championship fights are 12. And so it's much more of a marathon, and it's way less about volume of punches. Now it is about who's scoring the more impactful punches. So you could land the more punches in the round, but if you don't hurt your opponent and they hurt you with 2 or 3 punches, they probably won the round, And
it becomes more of an art form at that point, huh? It's more of like a sculpture than it is like a broad stroke painting. Wow.
It becomes way more into chess than checkers now. It's more strategic, and ideally you're having a camp to look at one opponent as well. And that doesn't always happen in the pros, especially in the beginning. For us, it's kind of like whoever they get you, and sometimes it changes the week of and whatever. But ideally, you're getting this opponent. You get to kind of look at old tape of them and their previous fights and kind of study and come up with a game plan. Versus the amateurs, you just go to these tournaments and you're like, let's see who I draw, and you fight someone new every night, sometimes you've fought them already and you think you know what to expect, and then they bring something totally different, or sometimes it's the same, so
that's cool.
That's cool. Different.
Yeah, absolutely. Now with your pro debut just on the brink within a week here, not to look beyond that, we wish you nothing but luck with that, but are you looking for in this 2025 year, how many fights are you possibly looking forward to doing?
I mean, at the beginning of the year, my coach and I sat down and we said, let's try to get 5. And that's a lot. 5 is on the high end, I think. Some people might do more early, but 4 is pretty standard early in your career. And my coach and I sat down and said, let's try and do 5. But I've had 2 fights already fall through this year. So we're just getting the first one in May. And you know what? I had my moments of disappointment, and now it feels like it's all like happening for a reason, as I'm feeling my skill set and everything just kind of like refine for this camp. It's like, you know what? This is when it was supposed to happen. So it's okay. But I would be really happy if I could get 3, maybe 4 fights in this year. So a couple more after this. That's what we're shooting for. But it's a wild game out there.
Still, Carson, I think I'm watching, obviously not being in your head, but just watching this, and they always say like the world sees the Twitter version of what happens in your life, right? And like now you're in that professional circuit. I just keep going back to your story is so crazy. I hope you know that there's going to be some type of movie out there, like the Lifetime movie about this. I mean, but think about it, like it is literally like you go from this grind to now I'm a pro, and it's like you just keep the level of expectation for yourself. It's so cool because it never goes down. You keep expecting, and that's what I want people like already to hear from what you're saying. Never stop expecting more out of yourself. I hear that from you. I was cool to get amateur. It's cool to just go in and win my first fight. That's cool. Now I'm next level, next rung in the ladder. You keep climbing up the ladder. You see what I'm saying? Now pro is like pro is it's just part of it now. Like, okay, now I want to get 4 or 5 fights before, let me just get to pro. That's such a cool way of you looking at life. You just keep tackling the ladder. I know I'm rambling, but you just keep going up the ladder, and you're not looking down. You're only looking up.
That's really nice.
It's cool.
That's really nice. Thank you. I mean, I think it's been, boxing has been this like just continual life lesson, and it's part of what I love about it is I keep learning more and more about myself. And I think one of the lessons I always come back to is like, just take things one day at a time, and just try the next thing. And when you think you want to do something, start it and just try. You just gotta start, and you just see where it takes you. But I
love that. Before we go and wrap it, I did have a bonus question. Kind of is actually a fan question, sort of. So, and I'm kind of asked this delicate. It's a little different. A lot of times after fights and things, and it just seems like it's different person to person. But a couple of girl members asked me this. A lot of times, if you're in a hard fight and it's physical, and you get a little, you have a couple of days to recover. What's the for someone that wants to be a physical fighter like yourself, afterward, if there's some damage, you know, maybe some black eyes, shiners, things like that, going out into society,
which I have right now. Yeah,
I understand. But the question I get a lot from like female athletes is, how do you deal with the people that don't know you? If you're just like going to the grocery store, hey, I'm just going for a walk, going for a run. What if someone doesn't know the world that you're in? Do you get that? Is it an awkward thing going to the store after a fight, after you're healing? I mean, what's the mental advice you can give to a girl that wants to step into your shoes, knowing she might have that couple of days afterwards and that post recovery where, you know, there may be some physical signs of a fight, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, well, I have had I had one really dark black eye once after a fight that I did wear boxing stuff a lot for a while. You know, I just wore shirts that said boxing on them so that people knew. But really mostly what I come, because I've been walking around with, you know, I had my last sparring on Friday before this fight. And so I had a good friend of mine in my camp, and you know, she gave me a little shiner at the end. I gave her fat lip too, so it's okay. It was a good hard, good hard last session. But it's like you get to choose if you care how other people are perceiving you. I think is more the lesson. And like I said, there have been times where I've been like, I'm just gonna put my USA Boxing hoodie on so no one worries because my face looks a little messed up. But most of the time, I just come back to like, you know what? Like, people are going to think what they're going to think. And it's a lesson for anything, whether it's bruises on your face or anything else. It's just like,
just that question come up a lot with like contact sports with girls. Cause you know, my daughters have asked me that too. They're like, Dad, you know, what do you do? How do you, several people asked me to ask you that. So that was a cool, thank you for answering that. So
yeah, of course.
So next section, I guarantee in all the media, all the things you've done, you've never had a segment like this. I guarantee this is something that we're known for. Dane, 300 episodes deep? We do something that's called rapid fire. So let me explain what this is. Carson, there's 5 questions Dane and I bet on. We bet on what we think you're going to say. So this is the thing. There's no wrong answer. These are 5 scenarios. It could be make-believe. It could be going back in time, hypotheticals. So the point of this is you go with what you feel is right. And whichever one of us gets the most answers right, we get lunch provided by the loser. So
love it.
Dane has beat me the past couple times. He's kind of on a winning streak, so I'm hoping tonight I can fix that. So with these questions, again, just go with how you feel. You pick the answer. There's no wrong answer. Got it?
Okay, got it.
Dane, you ready? Get your picks?
Yep, here we go. Yeah.
But one of the things, as your career's taken off, they ask you, it's interesting, a lot of times there seems to be kind of a mix between like athletes and movie stars, TV appearances, cameos, things like that. So you get approached to go on an episode of Walker, Texas Ranger, the new one, and I love this show. I love it. And your character, you get to go and be an undercover bass player in a rock band, or you get to be an undercover rancher for this episode. You can be a bass player in a rock band or a rancher for your undercover episode as you're making your TV debut. Bass player, rancher, which way are you going?
Oh, you know what? I think bass player.
Let's go. I had it, Dan. I did. I got you. Dane, what do you have on that?
No, I had a rancher.
Let's go. Got you. I can do it. It's like, you know, we've been watching a ton of like Law and Order and all these shows lately, and it's like all the undercover stuff. It's like Carson Crawford, undercover, you know, the bass player.
Love it.
Okay.
All right,
got you.
Cool.
Got you one. So, Dan, I'm ahead of you, man. I'm going to beat you, Dan. I think I am. So, they're doing a celebrity boxing / just, you know, athletic charity events. Happens a lot. So, you're doing an event between fights where they want you to do kind of like a celebrity jump rope tournament type thing. So, you and 30 other boxers are doing this jump rope tournament. What they don't tell you is beforehand, when you go out on stage, you either have to be jump roping in barefoot or you have to go in cowboy boots. Barefoot, cowboy boots. Which way are we going? For the
barefoot.
Dang it, man! I'm getting crushed. Dan, I actually had cowboy boots on that. Dane, what'd you have?
Not barefoot, boxer.
Okay.
I'm sure that's everyday occurrence.
You're the one that runs barefoot, not me, Dan. I can't do that.
Yeah, if I didn't have to wear shoes for boxing, I wouldn't. If I was, you know, kickboxing, they don't. But yeah, I'm a no-shoe person as often as I can.
Fair enough. Next one. When your debut fight, which you will, your pro debut, we're calling it, you're going to win it. We believe in you. Afterwards, in the press conference, they want you to give the post-fight press conference. But what they don't tell you is you're not allowed to use your words. You have to use one of these 2 sources to answer all of the questions in the press conference, okay? You have to answer the press using only fortune cookie sayings or using only nursery rhyme sayings. Fortune cookie or nursery rhymes to answer the press. Which way are we going?
Fortune cookie.
Can you see that? You're like, hey, so how was your fight, Carson? So think before you, like, you're just pulling out fortune cookies and reading that.
Pull them out. I mean, then I get a snack while I'm answering the questions,
awesome.
you know?
Dane, what do you have on that? You have fortune cookies?
I had nursery runs. You could really,
Okay.
you can really go a different direction with it. Throw everybody off.
Yeah, kind of like, so how was the fight? How did you feel in round 3? Oh, McDonald, you know what I'm saying? Like, kind of cool.
Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall.
Let's go. Yeah, Humpty Dumpty, you know, cracked him like an egg, you know, I could just, All right, Dan, I got you 2 for 1. Let's see how you do on this next one. So, like I said, the Carson Crawford story is about to be written. There's going to be a book about you. It's going to be pretty cool. And 2 of these authors say, Carson, we want to write your book. We want to write the Carson Crawford book. And you get to choose which one of these 2 authors to write your book. You can choose very different fields of work. You can choose Stephen King to write your book, or you can choose John Grisham to write the Carson Crawford story. Stephen King, John Grisham, where we going?
I am a Stephen King girl, so that's yeah.
Dane, what do you have on that one?
John Grisham.
Did you really? Okay. I got you.
Stephen King's my guy. That's
you
my
can't go wrong.
go-to.
You can't go wrong either way on that one.
Yeah, good choices.
That's good.
Got you. So this one, the last one, you're traveling back in time. The fighter that you're known as today, you're traveling back in time, and you get to spend a day being the cut woman for one of these 2 boxers. And this is like when the sport starts taking off. You know, we love it. You can spend a day, I guess a year if you want to call it, being the cut woman for Foreman or Frazier. Which way are you going?
Ooh, those could both be really interesting. Frazier?
Let's go. I had it, Dane. I had it. What'd you have, Dane?
Oh, yeah. I think Frazier was more work. He didn't really duck out of the way.
You know, keep you on your toes a little bit. You know?
There you go.
I love it. Well, Dan, I beat you, so I'll take my lunch delivered, please, Dane. Over Eats now. So we finally broke the curse. Thank you. Dane's won like 4 in a row, and I'm like, what is he getting answers and Ray? You guys talking? So
thanks for texting me your answers before.
Thank you, Carson. I love it. Appreciate it. So that was rapid fire. Thanks for making
Conspiracy here.
Something a little different, hopefully, than interviews you've had in the past. I appreciate
I love
that.
it. Yeah, totally different.
Awesome. So Dane, go ahead with the last part, man.
On this last segment, Carson, we call it open mic. We open the floor to our guests to kind of talk to the next generation of ball players, boxers, anybody that aspires to do anything great and looks up to people like yourself. Is there maybe a mantra or something you've carried through, like a philosophy through your career, that you can maybe share with that next generation to kind of help them along their path as well?
Yeah, totally. You know, people always tell you to kind of find your why and why you're doing what you do. And I can't tell anyone else what theirs should be, but for me, and a saying that I come back to, or like a phrase I come back to a lot for myself, is I'm doing this for me. And I think that can be really powerful to, like, we can do it for other people. Of course, I want to uplift other women and inspire young girls to, like, chase their dreams. But at the end of the day, like, I chose to box because I wanted to. And so when you have those moments of, like, doubt or fear, or like maybe you're, you know, about to walk out to the ring and you feel nervous and you have these thoughts of like, who signed me up for this? It's like, oh, I signed me up for this because I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it for the judges. I'm not doing it for my coach. I'm not doing it for anyone else. I'm doing it for myself. And that has been really empowering to me, because it's like, then I can walk out there confidently knowing that like I know who I am, and I know who I'm doing this for. You know?
That's cool. Yeah.
I love it.
I think I probably 300 episodes deep. I've never heard that answer before. Like, I mean, I've heard things like silence of critics, kind of like push past the fear, but never really thought about doing it for yourself. But why do we do what we do? And if you're not doing it for yourself, if you're not happy doing it, what's the point? If it's not for you and your benefit, that's crazy. Thank you, Carson.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Carson, like I said, Dane knows this too. I don't get speeches very often. There's a few times and you got me to just be quiet, and that doesn't happen very often. So we're going to be definitely cheering you on. We'll be watching it. I saw the card. We'll be streaming it, like stuff, and promoting you on. So I can't wait.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Of course, as we always say, let this be the first of many. We believe in what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So after this win and future wins, you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
Frank thing, okay?
Yeah, I'd love to be back. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Well, Carson, thank you on behalf of Dana, and much love. Best of luck. We'll be watching, and we're pulling for you.
Absolutely.
And, we can't wait to see you win next week. Okay, so
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
take care, Carson. Much love.
Thank you.
Have a great
Best
day.
of luck.
Bye. Have a good
Bye.
night.
Too. Thank
And
you.
I'm telling you, man, she's awesome. Like, there's the whole package, right? Isn't it just she expects to win? She just didn't. I mean, am I wrong? She just expects it. There's an expectation
Yeah.
in the air about her, right? What'd you think?
Yeah. I mean, and listening to her talk passionately about how she got into it and carrying herself into the pro ranks, you can't help but, cheer her on. Anybody that has that kind of message that have come from something that they thought they would be into, to having not only the guts to do it, but the faith in herself to do it. That's what I got out of that whole interview. It's the faith in yourself. I mean, it's a great message to pass on to the next generation, to believe in yourself, and you're going to push yourself farther than you can ever imagine.
Doing this for me, like I'm telling you,
Yeah.
man, we've heard a few musicians say that. Like I've
Yeah.
seen that, with like, okay, art subjective, but I never really thought about that with
Yeah.
athletes. Like, most time people that are athletes are trying to really influence others, and you can tell she does, but she's like, I'm doing this for me, my own personal breakthroughs. And I think
Yeah.
that's why she's
Yeah.
never backed down or backed out, because everything in it is personal. It's for her, So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, and the influencing others, just the fringe benefit of it, because
wow.
you do something great, people want to be involved with it. So,
Wow, that's awesome.
like I say, wish her best of luck, and hopefully one day we can say we interviewed that champion.
Yeah. Next week. So, well, that's awesome, man. So, that's a good one, guys. We got a great month of interviews, May and June. I almost spilled the beans. Got a lot of good stuff coming. Let's say the next 60 days are packed full of some good stuff. So, on behalf of Carson and her camp, on behalf of Dane and I, don't forget, as always, that we love you. And Dane,
Thank you for listening.